Okay, this is part 2 of innovation and change. If I were you, I'd pause this if you haven't watched Where Good Ideas Come From, because this correlates strongly with that video. That said, I'm going to continue on with this slide. And what we're looking at here is what are the components that we can make sure are inherent in our work environment that foster creativity. I'm going to be referencing that Where Good Ideas Come From when they talk about how these scientists in NASA actually came up with the GPS tool or science. So we have this group of scientists at NASA. They're monitoring Sputnik, and they're noticing that Sputnik has a signal. And sometimes the signal is stronger, sometimes it's not as strong. And the variability with the signal allows them to figure out how to track the satellite as it's moving through the orbit. And they're wondering, first they wondered, hey, let's just see if we can listen to it. Hey, we can listen to it. Now that we're listening to it, we see that there's this variability. I wonder if that will allow us to crunch the numbers and see where that is in the sky, where it's orbiting. And so they're getting together and working together on this side project. There's no fear of failure. It's very interesting. It's very challenging. It's like, can we do it? Yes, we can. Bob the Builder type stuff. So it's challenging work. Their bosses aren't saying no. The bosses are even allowing them to use the equipment to figure things out. So we have supervisory encouragement. We have organizational encouragement where the scientists are getting together and they feel free to talk about what they're doing and help each other out in this effort to figure out how to track Sputnik around. And they're working together. They have this sense of freedom. Even though it's a side project, they have their other work, but they have the freedom to work on this other stuff. So you see all these components, lack of organizational impediment. If the managers came down and said, no, you can't do this, and they would have to sneak around in order to work. They wouldn't, if they were sneaking around, they wouldn't have the ability to talk to each other, to share ideas. So you can see how all these things fit in the development of the GPS system. In fact, their supervisors, once they saw what they did with their ability to track the Sputnik around the globe and say, hey, yeah, we know exactly where it is right now. They're saying, well, if you know where that is, can you use that information to tell me where I am at any given point of time? And they say, well, maybe, and they go back and they figure it out, and they have the freedom and they're encouraged to do this and work together. And they say, actually, it'll be easier for us to use that information to determine where we are on the globe. And that's how we got GPS, right? One of the things a creative environment is it's not forced long hours. We have challenging work that engages us. So we're motivated by intrinsic means to figure things out. It's not secretive. It's not bonus contingent. It's not career contingent. So there's a lot more freedom and there's a lot more of a relaxed environment. So I think that's an important components of a creative work environment. The experimental approach assumes that innovation is occurring with a highly uncertain environment and that the key to a fast product innovation is to use intuition, flexible options, and hands-on experience to reduce uncertainty and accelerate learning and understanding. There's 5 aspects to the experimental approach. Design iteration is just repetition. So design iteration is a cycle of repetition in which the company tests a prototype of a new product or service. So we'll build something, or we'll design something and build it and then test it and improve the product or services through this prototype. A product prototype is a full-scale working model that's being tested for design, function, and reliability. Testing is a systematic comparison of different product designs or design iterations. Sometimes we test things just to make sure that they have a high quality that will last a while. Sometimes we're testing them just to make sure that they fit the customer requirements. And sometimes we'll develop a prototype, we'll test it to meet our specs, and then we'll give it to one of our major customers to have them test it to make sure that it meets their specifications. Milestones, we use milestones as a means of measuring how far we are going or how far along we are in the engineering and production or creation process. Most milestones have key criteria, especially if you're in a regulated environment. Some of those criteria will pass this testing or pass this milestone with the federal regulation, or that we have all the paperwork together, or we have this checked and this checked and this checked. We use multifunctional teams to get different perspectives. Sometimes they'll help us get through the milestones quicker. It'll also help us have people that might question different aspects of the product, make sure we're on the right track. So the experiential approach is used to manage innovation in highly uncertain environments. The compression approach is used to manage innovation in really certain environments where we know exactly what needs to happen after what needs to happen after what needs to happen. The goal is to take these long time periods and shorten them by overlapping. One of the things that we've seen in the compression approach, especially in movie making, like in the Twilight series, they knew the books are out there, we know the plot, everything's written, so we have the screenplays, okay, now they're written, and what they do is they would take a director and they would have that director organize the shoot for the first film. As soon as that film was shot, then they have another director come in and start prepping for the next film to be shot. So we don't have these 2 or 3 year time delays. And while the next film is shot, the first director can go ahead and start editing and doing the post-production. That can take, a year or two to get it out to the films. So while they're going through that with the first film, the second film is being shot. As soon as the second film is shot, they get another director, a third director, come in and start shooting the third film. That's one way we can do this compression approach, right? We have a certain environment. We know what steps are taking up a lot of time. We know that we need the characters, the actors that played in each film. Their time schedules can't be shortened, right, for the actual filming part, but everything around that can be. It also happened with the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit films. So normally you'd shoot a film in a series and then go through post-production and then shoot the next film. Well, what they did with those films is shoot all 3 films or all 4 films. So I know it's 3 films each. So they get all the filming done, and then they start editing the first film, and then once they get that done and edited and ready for release, then they have all this marketing that has to happen with the movie. So while the marketing is happening and the actors and characters, the actors that play all the characters are going around and pushing the film and going to all the late night shows and so forth, while that's going on, the director can still be editing his stuff for the second film and getting the second film ready to release. So that way we only have this year in between releases and we have momentum within the film.